So that's still in the burbs.
Oh yeah, it's only about 8 kilometers from my house,
Mm.
so I ride my bike most days.
Yeah. I have not yet prepared, or basically, I have not prepared anything.
Yeah, I mean either. I
So
was
we
just reading
can.
some stuff about eco-modernism.
Oh, cool. We can do a completely. You know what? I've already pressed recording. We can do like a rolling start. So I can put this into the video and
But
just say, here we
rolling
go.
starts better than no start at all, I suppose.
Exactly.
Start somewhere.
So, hello everybody. This is Matthijs, and that's
This is Alan over here in Chicagoland.
so Alan. Uh, First of all, I want to show the people who follow this channel a photo of mine. You saw it, right? The picture of me. Uh,
Oh yeah,
let's see
yeah.
where it is. So here's the thing, and I've spoken of this earlier, right? So it's in frame right now. The picture of me tearing off a stop Tihange, the nuclear plant, off one of those electric boxes. So the thing about the Netherlands is all our electric boxes are at street level, right? They're not up in poles
hmm
because all our electricity lines run underground instead of overground. And so basically they pop every. It's funny because people don't notice it anymore, but we've got these electric boxes like every 50 meters or so. Every 2 to 4 houses has an electricity box. The wires come up and then go down again into the house, and that's it basically. And it's a habit of everybody to plant stickers on them, but it's public property, these electricity boxes. They're not private property. So there's
Yeah,
like anti-nuclear stickers everywhere, and I found one, and I was like, you know what, this I cannot I cannot accept this sticker, so I'm going to tear it off. But these things are everywhere. These stickers are everywhere. So I am planning to buy like 1,000 stickers from a friend of mine who can make them. He's one of those guys who has this print set, and he can print T-shirts and
hmm
stickers and everything. And I'm, instead of pulling the anti-nuclear stickers off, I'm just going to
cover them up.
cover them up. I think that's a smarter way to go forward. And just
Takes less time, that's for sure.
it takes less time. It's better on my nails, and
Yeah, right. I always worry about chipping mine. Right.
so what did you want? What did you want to talk about today? And by the way,
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
one of the
not
things that
not
came up.
sponsored or anything. I'm just sipping cocoa. This
The product placement there. Yeah, I was having a little Twitter chat with somebody the other day, and um, they 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 kind of went down this line of we nuclear is not going to help us with climate change because it takes too long. It will be too late. It'll be 2030,
Oh yeah,
and we won't be able to do anything. And this whole idea that there's a cliff at 2030 is just, it's unfortunate that the way that the the people writing reports
mm,
had to illustrate that was resulted in a large part of the public thinking that there's a doomsday. It's
yeah.
going, the asteroid's going to hit on 2030. I mean, and
Do you know who came up with that? Is it how did every?
I think it's an IPCC thing, but it's not. That the way that they said was that they had to pick some way to measure the kind of progress that we're gonna that we need to make, and they said, well, so for a degree and a half, I think it was,
Yeah.
of increase, we need to do our models show that you need to have a reduction of so much by
Oh
2030,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And then something else by 2050, and so everybody's latching onto those dates.
Yeah.
And I'm like, stop latching onto dates, start building stuff.
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's kind of that's my fallback is always that, because they say, well, it takes too long. And it's like, well, it's going to take forever if you don't start.
Yeah,
So
and it's also like, why does that exclude nuclear? I mean, it's not
right,
as
well,
if
because
we reach 2030 and we've managed to hit the target, but for some reason we cannot expand any further, and we stop building everything altogether, that we're in the clear. I mean, this is going to be a
right,
concerted.
this is like going to be a never-ending thing,
Yeah,
for many years, for a couple of generations, I think, and
for millennia.
yeah, yeah, it'd be for a long time.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's disappointing to see people just latch onto that. And this
Mm.
guy in particular was excited about geothermal, and I'm like, that's fine. I mean, but there's just a tiny amount of it. I mean, Ben Hurd wrote a really good tweet storm, about 6 or 7 tweets is all it was. I
Mm.
think it was yesterday, and he had just come out of and I don't want to misquote him or badly paraphrase him, but he basically had been talking to some people in the mining community.
Yeah.
He's like, those people are not worried about solar and wind at all. I mean, and he says, you look at what's happened over, the reduction in that
Is
stuff, and
that
there's no reduction.
is that
It's
the
an increase.
uranium or the coal mining industry?
No, the coal mining. I
Yeah.
mean, any mining, but coal in particular.
Yeah.
And it's like those guys are not worried
No, not
about a reduction. And if you look at the numbers, the numbers aren't going down. People keep saying, oh, renewables finally have a capacity to outmatch coal in the United States. I saw that yesterday. Like, that just means nothing,
It
because
means absolutely
because
nothing.
the emissions are not going down.
And
That's the
it's
problem.
all so relative. It's all so relative. It's like, if you look at it's a race, right? Consider it a race, and this race has like 1,000 laps, and coal and gas already have had 1,000 laps, and they restarted the race basically. And so basically, nuclear and renewables are somewhere around 20 laps or so, and they have to catch on, do another 800 or 900 laps before they even get close to the damage that has been done by coal and gas, and coming close to the volume of coal and gas consumption that has been amassed around the planet and is still growing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's one of the
No, it's
findings. I read this article just the other day, and it basically said, even though renewables are picking up at an incredible speed, I mean, let's face it, it's incredible. It's it's not mattering at all, because, as you say, carbon emissions keep rising.
Well, and coal use and fossil fuel use keeps rising.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
the amount that we use goes up every
So,
year.
so
It's
and
not gone
what
down.
these people say is, because renewable additions plus nuclear, I always include nuclear in that equation, have now either matched or slightly under or slightly over coal. Only coal. That's what they say. So they've matched it. Additions. So not total volume, but additions, which basically means, and they're not looking at
Barely
gas.
keeping it up.
Yeah, they're not looking at gas and biomass. If you stack that up, then renewables and nuclear are still not even in lockstep in terms of additions.
Right.
So
I mean,
what are we talking about?
You need to double all that just
Yeah.
to make up for what's being increased in fossil fuels. Never mind
Yes,
the 80% of
absolutely.
all of our energy that already comes from them. So it's it's a big lift, and most people just really don't get that.
Absolutely, you're right.
So I want to do my best, and I think we all ought to be doing
How
our
do we
best.
reach these
That's
people?
kinda
I mean, that's the only question that basically occupies my mind. It's either, how do I circumvent them, make them obsolete, make them
right. Make things happen anyway, even though they
exactly.
they're thinking something different.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why policymakers are so important. That's why I try to work with the ones that
absolutely.
I'm constituents of, and that's why training people that are already thinking like we do to more effectively be advocates for policymakers. I mean, that's in all the twittering that I do, I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's not really I don't think it's changing hearts and minds so much as
Mm.
it is allowing me to learn what I need to learn and to be engaged is the amount that I need to be engaged
Yeah.
so that I feel like I'm part of that. But the real difference is going to be when yesterday, 2 days ago, I went to the library and I met with a staff person from my congresswoman.
Hmm.
And I handed her a piece of paper and I said, here you go. I wrote this. It's third in a series. I've sent all of them over, and I've heard nothing back, from you guys. So
Yeah.
please respond with, whatever your thoughts are, and also please be more clear about what the position of the congresswoman is, because, you know, she's a Democrat. She's an old style, party line Democrat, and she's basically very, very tentative on nuclear at best.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I have work to do, and that's just one
Oh,
out
you
of
have to.
525
Yeah.
and
But you have to
625.
massage it. You really have to be like a masseur, you know. You have to you have to
Yeah,
basically knead it in and try to, you know, get a good relationship with those staffers because
yeah,
I
that
think
really
this
matters.
yeah, I think the
Uh,
staffers are key.
yeah, they are, and I've had my state representatives, both the congressman and the senator, their staffs. I've one of them, my congressman said, you converted my guy.
Yeah.
He's totally sold on
Yeah.
nuclear now,
And that's
and
it. Because those Congress people and those senators, they don't have the time to basically
no,
read
yeah,
all
right,
the information that's out there. So that's one of the things that I discovered as well is that it's very hard to directly converse with any policymaker.
yep,
They always rely on people to do the research for them. So
uh huh,
you
yeah,
have to get to those people.
the gatekeepers,
The
right,
gatekeepers, exactly. So
yeah,
yeah,
so
and still we have to win hearts and minds. I mean, there's no question about it. There's no question about it because the more people speak up like we do, the easier it becomes for a senator to say, well, there's so much noise about it. I don't know anything of what is going on. They can also point their staffers towards things that they want
yeah,
to
better
know.
take a look at that, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, kicking up this dust cloud, it's important.
Yeah, so and I also, generally speaking, I enjoy, what I do on Twitter. I mean, I have a chance to, there's a crowd of people up there that I feel like I know them, even though I haven't met most of them,
Yes.
and I do learn things. I try to, I'm always trying to hang out with people that are smarter than me, and for, in general, that's not that high of a bar, but 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 it's
Don't be so
but
humble.
it's definitely it's you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, like if you want to learn something, and so
Exactly.
I try to be open-minded, and
Well,
even people
and
that
you know
have a
what?
different
You can be the
view of
smartest person in the room, but that is not an excuse not to still keep learning for yourself.
right, yeah, that's no excuse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, I just have to. You might have to dig a little bit more, but that's maybe because you're smart, you can do that.
Uh, Renewable
So it's
mandates can be brought back. The plants can't. Yeah, I'm looking at your Twitter feed at this moment, so I'm going to point our viewers towards your Twitter account. Obviously,
some of my Twitter blather.
yeah. Well, it's a very interesting
Pick,
tweet. For
pick the
instance,
good ones.
yeah, the one that you pinned on February 6th. Developing relationships with all my Democratic senators and
Yeah,
Congress people and their staff, and making sure what they hear a clear, well reasoned pro nuclear message from me. Work with grassroots organizations to empower our others to do the same. So that's awesome. I mean, that's I think that's exactly within our ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the work is.
That's where, some of the nuclear organizations can't basically say, well, they can't dabble in grassroots. I mean, grassroots is something that exists outside of the establishment. It's support,
Hmm.
right? It's support. It's something that that grew from out of the ground, and it's
Yeah, and then you mean there's a the Citizens Climate Lobby people have a term they call grass tops, which is community leaders and mayors and people that are in positions of influence, but not at the state level or the national level.
yeah,
And those people are important too. And one of the things they look for from them is a simple letter of you know saying that they support a carbon fee dividend in their case, but
yeah.
they try to collect endorsements like that, and
Hmm. Because they are
and
pretty
it's
single issue, right? They're
they're
basically,
very focused on that single issue, and it's I have a hard time sometimes uh, when I see that they their communications people tweet or talk on Facebook about you know a great new renewable kind of a thing of some sort, and I'm like, that's you guys really need to be technology neutral, because what you're giving people a false hope for is exactly that. And
yeah, exactly. You mustn't let people latch on. If you once you let them latch on, and it becomes more ideologically driven, and it's like,
yeah,
we are trying to gain critical mass, so we are going to erect this giant tent, and we are going to let causes latch on to us because we include this and we include that and such, and so I don't think that's so. That's why I think CCL is a good cause. They are
well,
pretty
they have
single
they
minded.
have good tools, and
Yeah.
so I think some the people I'm working with at Generation Atomic have kind of co-opted some of those ideas. I mean, it's really just how do you marshal the resources of a whole bunch of volunteers,
Hmm.
and get them to focus so that politicians can feel pressure, as opposed to a bunch of different little pressures from all over the place. Focus those into a pinpoint
Hmm.
where they can really feel it, right? and
Yeah.
and it's and it's the messaging is clear, and the numbers are easy to count, and I mean, I hope that we can get some success with that, and that we do get that kind of a thing. But I wonder what CCL will do if the dog catches the car. So if we get legislation passed to get a carbon fee and dividend in place like they want, and there's legislation that's it's in the House right now
Yeah.
that's pretty much exactly what they want.
Yeah.
If that passes, what are they going to now what are they
What's
going to do? Are they
next?
going to disband? Are they going to go push renewables somehow? Are they going to so
We have
it's
to be we have to be we have to be prepared to
that would
help,
be interesting to see what happens, and I would certainly be
guide.
standing up and saying I know a great cause
Yeah. Yeah.
that you could
We have
pick
to
up.
we have to try and guide them,
No,
because
so it's
the renewable, within the stream that we're in, the renewable maelstrom has a big pull, you
yeah.
know but you
It
have
really
to.
does, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things that Ben said towards the end of that little tweet storm, that it was that you have he at one point was basically anti-nuclear, and but he sat down and he looked at it, and he looked at it seriously, and he changed his mind, and he
Yeah.
said, I implore you guys that are worried about the climate to take a look and open your hearts and your minds and take a look at this, because it is so important.
Exactly.
It's just because it's the only thing. I mean, you can't you can't say, I'm going to write off. I'm gonna take a vow not to be, allow fossil fuels to be, extracted from federal land. I mean, that's something Joe Biden just said. He did. He's and you do that, you're not doing anything about demand,
No.
and you're not replacing it with anything that's better. And that's what I always say is, if you want to get rid of fossil fuels, then replace them with something that's better.
Yeah. No,
That's what you have to do.
Don't displace the problem. You know.
That's what you have to do because, and that's that's one of the things I like about eco-modernism is that it doesn't say we have to just quit everything and scale our lives back and stop.
No,
it says
there's a smarter way.
Embrace it. He says embrace clean energy, embrace lots of clean energy.
There's a smarter way. Because, there's a smarter way. Instead of regressing, we can exactly as you said, we can embrace first we can embrace modern technology, whether it is renewables,
which is by definition almost high energy,
mostly nuclear, and
but I mean all technology, all the technology that we have means that we have to be high energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Star Trek. That's a great example. Look at Star Trek and see how those you've got everything around you requires energy in a Star Trek episode. And,
yes, exactly.
And it's
but
we don't necessarily want to do that, but they also they also, because they do that, they can leave nature alone.
I mean they have the excellent one of the prime examples of Star Trek is the food replicator, right?
That's right. I love that.
It's the food replicator. I mean, they basically have a hole in the wall, and if you say,
right?
you say, I want food. I want this food, and you get it within seconds, and it's exactly according to your specification.
There are 14 varieties of tomato soup available.
Here, right now, I've put something on from Star Trek Voyager,
with pasta,
and a guy is ordering hot tomato soup.
Hot, plain tomato soup.
Just like Grandma used to make.
Yeah. So
anyway, I'm still plugging along here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do those things. I do. There's a good book on eco-modernism by an Australian gentleman, I think, coming out.
Yeah.
I pre-ordered it. I think it's called Eco-Modernism.
Okay. One of the funny things is that it also attracted some criticism, because some people are like, well, yes, but you have Michael Schellenberger as your eco-modernist guru, and because he is not against nuclear weapons and such, it somehow poisons the well. But, these are philosophical arguments.
I mean, there's nobody out there I don't have something I disagree with him on.
Yeah. So, but that's not one of the core tenets of eco-modernism.
Right. Yeah.
The core tenets of eco-modernism are basically, if we manage to create enough energy and concentrate mankind on a small enough footprint, and decouple from nature,
right.
Then the world will thrive, but mankind will also thrive, because the world is thriving. We don't have to worry about calamities anymore. Of course, there will be stuff that is outside of our ability to cope with, whether that is giant storms or earthquakes
asteroids,
or whatnot,
whatever,
asteroids.
Right.
I mean, there will always be things that we have to engineer our way out of. But it's a good idea, and I absolutely. I mean, given the fact that there's so much energy available, both in renewable resources, which is harder to catch because it's low, because it has a very low energy density and it requires a lot of materials, but more so in nuclear, and especially if you look at spent nuclear fuel. I'm always baffled by the sheer volume of energy that is already lying on the soil somewhere,
Yep, right there.
extracted
Right there
already.
waiting for us.
It's
Yep.
thousands of years already. So, and that's for all of mankind. I'm not talking about
Well, it's not
current.
a problem. It's an opportunity, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the only thing that I'm thinking about that worries me a little bit is how do we ensure that we produce enough food for everybody? And some people say, well, factory farming is the answer. That's going to cost materials as well. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about that. But one thing's for sure, as long as we use fertilizers and mechanized agriculture with good
Right.
irrigation practices and such, we will manage to feed enough people. But as long as everybody keeps, trying to do the organic thing, I understand why some
Yeah.
people want it.
It's good for a hobby, but don't make it the thing that runs
Exactly.
the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
Right.
not a feasible thing.
Yeah. I sent you a link to that book if you want to.
Oh, that's interesting. So that was the
Okay.
message I just received. I have
Yeah.
like a 10.
Eco-modernism is it's a book by Jonathan Simmons, Symons, and it's pre-order still. Gonna ship at the end of July.
Yeah. Let's see. Smile.
So I'm looking forward to it.
There it is. Eco-modernism, technology, politics, and the climate crisis. There's like so many books like that out there. But every book gives us new insights about.
As one of those smarter people than me that said they had pre-ordered it, so I thought I should
Right.
too.
So let me ask you another question. Have you managed to read my stuff?
I have not, and I've got some additional extracurricular responsibilities that I've had to deal with over the last couple of
It's
weeks,
such a
and they
pain
just
to
sucked
get.
up all of my time.
Yeah, it's such a
And,
pain to get people to read it. I'm
And I,
wondering if I ever get, if I ever
It
get.
is on my list, and I will get to it probably this weekend. But it's a lot of things on my list, I guess.
I get it. So it's a bit of a frustration at this moment because I've
To
distributed
wait
it
for
to
people.
like
Yeah.
10, 15 people, and I've got response from one
Yeah.
so far.
Well,
and
you'll have a
it's-
response from 2 in a couple of days. Probably, so.
But you know
Or
what?
more.
Because I'm itching to let it go and release it into the world because I think it's going to be, if I get the support that I need for it, I don't think that it's going to enact real change in the Netherlands because it's basically a tax that is aimed at policymakers in the Netherlands. But what I hope is that it will whip up, such a storm that at least people get it on the agenda again, in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's some headlines like Dutch study says that if we build 5 or 10 nuclear reactors, that will save 100 megatons a year or something like that. Or Dutch can build 5 to 10 nuclear reactors at reasonable cost or something like that, which is still granted. I mean, this is incredibly optimistic because before that happens, we have to pass legislation and
Yeah.
we have to work with vendors and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so,
Keep working on those policymakers.
but somebody's got to try, right? I mean,
Well, and again, you're not going to get anything done if you don't start.
yeah.
So you got to start.
So that's why
That's how we keep
I'm
doing it.
frustrated right now because I've started and now my momentum is like dropping. It's like,
Yeah.
choop.
Yeah.
Get on with it.
That's my day every day as I'm.
That's
getting
all right. You
done
have a
and waiting.
daytime job. I don't blame you.
But in my daytime job, that's the problem I have too. So I end up
Yeah,
waiting
I
for
get it.
people, so.
It's 16 pages, by the way. I've added my levelized cost of electricity graphs in there. I finally did the correct reference page, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. I just need to check the figures one more time, but I'm pretty sure that they're spot on. So the LCOE level, the LCOE calculator that I'm using is correct, assuming that it is. These are pretty good results.
You've piqued my interest again, so now I'm gonna go read it tonight.
So my main finding basically is nuclear and solar are more or less competitive with each other. If you take the total population of nuclear power plants, APR, AP1000 and EPR, and I take like a reasonable amount of solar power plants, like 15 of them, and solar and nuclear are actually cheaper than wind. I don't know what the hype about wind is. People are saying that it's incredibly cheap, but I don't see it. I don't know where that cheapness comes from. I don't know where it comes from, to be honest.
Okay. A lot of smoke and mirrors going on there.
Yeah, I believe so. If anybody says it's incredibly cheap, that's only because there's subsidies and other stuff going on.
Something else going on, yep.
That's not in the books, because otherwise this is impossible. And, yeah.
Okay, my friend.
Yeah. So already 30 minutes in. So you're off your lunch break right now, right?
I am. So I gotta get some things to some people and pay the bills, but I am looking forward to looking through your paper.
All right. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Right?
All right. See you later, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks
bye-bye.
for coming on.